Welcome to today's Seidokan Saturday. I want to do a quick follow-up on Tokumine no kun because we do have actual video of Toma Sensei doing this kata, grainy black and white as it is, back from the 60s-ish. And there are some differences that I wanted to point out and talk about why or how important or the evolution thereof. Realizing that even from when he performed it on that video, which again I'll link, to the way he taught it in his dojo, whether it's the way he actually taught it or the way he allowed his students to evolve it, nonetheless, in the 90s, from the 60s to the 90s, we see changes in how the kata was performed. We must remember first and always that kata are merely geometrically linked representations of individual techniques. It is not full-on fighting. They are little snippets in time of defensive techniques against an opponent. Just like in basketball or football, in a team practice, I might practice my plays without any defense on the field, and I might practice them in slow motion. Then I will add a defense in place, but they will do what's called a token defense, where they're really not trying to do anything. They're just giving me some positions that I know where I have to move relative to them. Then they will apply a little more active defense, and then gradually it will become a full-on scrimmage, and everything goes to chaos. In karate, the kata are the representations of the play being run with no defense. And we take each of those things and link them as we go from this play and move into the next play. In a motion offense or in a shuffle offense, you start with the pass going to a certain individual and then going to another way, and then as the movement rotates, it morphs, if you will, and changes. But it's a continuous motion. The same is true in kata. We're taking an individual encounter, and now we're taking a second individual encounter, and probably not going to do those three steps exactly that way. They are simply geometrically linked as a way to give me a continuous practice of all of my disparate or separate individual techniques linked together into a geometric pattern. Thank you, McCarthy Sensei. That's pretty much how he explains his drills and things as well, and the existence of kata. So when we look at these differences, understand that they matter, but they don't. So here's where the biggest differences occur. In the kata, when we've turned, we've done this poke, which some versions of Tokumine do forward, and then forward, we do on the downed opponent. Now, in Toma's version, or in our current version, we step out with the right foot, we step out with the left foot, and then we step out with the right foot. In the old Toma black and white video, he steps away with the left foot, steps away with the right foot, and then again steps away with the left foot. Now, one other change is after our initial forward pokes, because he didn't really use stances per se, the weight distribution was pretty much just natural, and he's just kind of staying in close under himself here, which is the old Okinawan way before kata became more athletic and broad. At this point, we take the forward foot and step across into the strike. So the direction of stepping, back, 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 and across are all different than the way they used to be. Now here's the big $100 million question. Does it matter? I submit to you, no. The direction which we step in kata is merely to preserve the geometric pattern. And it is preserved regardless of whether I step back or whether I step forward. The geometric pattern is preserved. What do we learn from each of those movements? Well, that will depend on how I want to apply it. And the application comes from what my opponent gives me. We don't go into a confrontation, see the bully and go, here's what I'm going to do. It's not like the, what's the movie? The Equalizer movie where he pre-envisions every move and he can foresee what the attacker's going to do. Or the Sherlock Holmes with Downey, what's his first name? Downey. Robert Downey Jr., where he pre-sees what his technique is going to be. That would be really a great skill to have, to look at somebody and go, I know exactly how he's going to attack and I can do this. That's unrealistic, great in the movies. In real life, my technique is going to be whatever my opponent gives me. In game terms, football, basketball, whatever, they say take what your opponent gives you, let the game come to you. When you get a player who continues to try to do what he wants to do, but the defense won't allow that, that player gets shut down. When instead, like a good quarterback on the line, he has this play, but then he sees, oh, they're not playing man-to-man, they're in a zone with a 5-3. Now I have to make a play call change right here at the line of scrimmage. So that's more how we have to approach the self-defense aspect. I don't know whether it's going to be better for me to step back or to step forward until I see what weapon he has, until he actually initiates something. And again, we are assuming a weapon. When we have a bow, we're assuming they have something. If I'm empty-handed and he has a bow, my response is definitely going to be forward or forward at angles. I'm not going to move back from a weapon because a weapon's advantage is range. But if I have a weapon and he does, it's going to depend on his weapon and his attack, and I will move accordingly, which goes back to the old karate saying, karate ni sente nashi. There's no first attack in karate. Now, that doesn't mean I can't hit him before he hits, but I don't have the initial intent of going after him. I only respond when his intention or action dictates that I must. And then I take what he gives me and utilize it. So again, the kata are merely geometric representations of the individual techniques linked together in a practice template, not dictating the direction of the step. In fact, if I'm responding defensively and I step straight back against a weapon attack, dumb. But in the kata, that's what we do, right? We come here, we step straight back. Well, that's where even the stance changes become important. If I'm just staying in a natural stance and step straight back, that can create a problem if he has a long weapon. But if instead I angle my step away, then it makes a little more sense. So even in that regard, we adjust based on the attack. So bottom line, don't get caught up with, did Toma step backwards where we step forward? Doesn't really matter, as long as my angle relative to my opponent is effective against his attack. The kata is just a geometric linking to remind me of the techniques. The techniques, when I need them, are going to be performed according to what the opponent has given. I hope that makes a little bit of sense, gives us a little historical perspective on how things have evolved, even within our own system. Thanks for joining. If it didn't make sense, ask questions. I'll try to be more clear later. If you have a question on how I explained that, cool. And until then, as always, like, share, subscribe, hit the bell, call your mom, send somebody a funny meme, but most importantly, let's keep practicing.